All right, so we are going to get into the UV mapping portion of the well. And I do need to point out because I'm not showing it as I'm working, I am incrementing and saving after UV mapping each part of the well. So I don't show that in the actual tutorial between all the different parts of the well. So I'm telling you ahead of time. Right now, before we get into UV mapping, keep in mind you need to be incrementing and saving be after each part that you UV map. So the pillars, then you increment and save. The awning, you increment and save. The middle bars, then you increment and save. The shingles, increment and save. So I just want to point out it's really important to increment and save as you're working. So I did a little bit of editing on my ground here and my rocks. I just moved things around just because I wanted some more ground visible. But now let's get into the UV mapping of this well. So, first thing we need to do, we need to separate the shingles and the stones. Right now, they are one solid shape, but we want to be able to UV map each individual stone and shingle. So, I'm going to select the stones first, and I'm going to come up to mesh, and we're going to click separate. You can see that separated it, so it's no longer one solid object. We're going to do the same with the shingles here. Separate. And the shingles on the other side. Separate. All right, so now let's get to UV mapping. I'm going to go ahead and select my entire setup here, and let's change our workspace from general to UV editing. And we need to generate some UV maps before we come in here and start cutting up the edges and unfolding things. So I'm going to just go to create and I'm going to do a camera based UV map projection. So I'm just going to hit camera based. All right, you can see this is a mess. We need to be able to UV map this entire object. Let me make sure that I have everything visible here. All right, so we're gonna have to do everything, and I feel like it would be easiest just to start with the pillars here. So I'm gonna click one pillar and I'm gonna isolate it up here. And we wanna hide our seams, of course. So I think I'm gonna try to hide it right around in this area. So just to be able to see better, I am gonna turn off my checkers so that I can see. And let's go to edge mode. Let's select this edge, select this one. And I'm going to hold shift, double click on this side as well. Hold shift, double click, and hold shift, double click. So I don't want to select the full circle that goes all around, the edge loop that goes all around the top here. I just want to select this side, and this side, and not this side. Now, let's see here. Let's come down here. And let's get the underside as well. Same thing. This edge loop, these edges, and these edges. And I'm just holding shift and double clicking. Forgot that one right there. So let's take a look at this and make sure we're not missing any edges. Okay. So now let's cut our seam here. I'm going to come over to the UV toolkit. Let's open up cut and sew and let's hit cut. Okay, so now let's go to object mode. So now you can see we have our cut that we made along the top, down the side, along the bottom as well. So let's unwrap that in the UV editor. Let's go to UV shell. I'm going to select it. And I'm going to come down to the unfold tab and I'm going to hit unfold. All right, UV shell. Let's move this over. Let's turn on the checkers again so that we can see what this looks like. Okay, I'm going to rotate this a bit. All right, so we have some more uniform checkers here, which is good. This is what we wanted. Looks pretty good. Okay, I am just going to move this temporarily off screen out of our 1 by 1 box here. And I am going to unisolate this now. So let's click that. And we are going to transfer the attributes from this pillar to this one because they are duplicates of this same polygon. So we can do that. I'm going to hold shift, select this pillar over here. And then I'm going to go up to mesh and we're going to transfer attributes, but let's open up the options box first. And let's make sure that a component is toggled on. I'm going to hit transfer. There we go. Now it transferred the UV shell to this one as well. And that looks nicely UV mapped. Okay, let's do these edges right here, this awning right here next. All right, let's do the awning. I'm going to select it, isolate it. Of course, the UVs always look really good when they're facing the camera and you do a camera projection because it's projecting right where we were looking at it. So we were looking at it dead on. So whatever was facing us looks great, but the rest of it doesn't look great. So I'm going to turn off checkers, and this is a little bit of a complex shape, so we may have to get creative with the way that we cut this. I'm thinking we should cut it in half first so that we are unfolding this side and this side separately. So I am just going to hold shift, double click. Let's see if we can get the entire edge loop all around selected. Okay, looks like everything's selected. Let's go ahead and cut. All right, now I'm thinking we want to hide our seams in the back. So this is the back here. And I want to hide the seams on the underside along this edge here. So I'm going to hold shift, double click. It's okay if it selects it on the other side because we want to make whatever cuts to this side identical on that side. And let's do the back side. This side right here. And this side right here. So that like the pillars, we don't have it going all the way around. These front edges are not selected, which is exactly what we want. Let's do the same to the other side. I'm going to hold shift, double click for the back edges, the side edges, and these side edges without these front ones selected. So let's just make sure we have all the edges I wanted selected along the back here as well. Okay. All right, looks good. Let's make this cut as well. Let's go cut. And I'm going to go to UV shell and let's unfold. Move that over and unfold. Let's turn on the checkers so we can take a look. Okay, let's rotate our UV map. Oops. Hit W so that I can select it. Let's rotate this one as well. Try to get it as straight as possible. And let's take a look at it. Okay, looks good. Those are real nice uniform checkers. All right, so now I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to select these two guys. I am just going to scale them down for now. And let's push them out of the 1 by 1 box as well. And go to object mode and unisolate this. So click that. And because this one is a duplicate of this one, we can just transfer the attributes. So hold shift, select, go to mesh, and transfer attributes. Let's make sure component is still toggled on. It is. Let's hit transfer. Okay, looks good. So now let's do the inside here. So thankfully, this is not going to be very visible, so we don't really need to make it look as perfect as possible. But let's isolate it, and let's think about how we want to do this. So I could make a new projection and see what that looks like. So I'm going to keep it selected. Let's go to create, and let's try a planar projection. Let's see what happens when we do that. I want to do it from the x-axis. Try project. Okay, does not look good. Let's try it maybe from the z-axis. So that makes the flat surfaces look great, but the underside does not look great. So let's think here. Thinking maybe we should do the same thing that we did with the awning where we separated it into two pieces. So I'm just going to go to object mode and I'm going to turn off checkers and let's just cut it by hand. All right, so you may have noticed this looks a little weird. This happens sometimes. You you can accidentally knock the shader that you have attached to your polygon clear off of it. So right now we have this default polygon shader that was randomly applied to it because our open PBR shader accidentally was knocked off. So I'm just going to keep this selected and I'm going to reassign that one so that we have our nice matte gray again. Okay, so let's do edge, and I'm thinking maybe we can do this bottom part as one UV shell and the top part as a different UV shell. So let's zoom in here and let's hold shift, double click all along these inside faces. And now just keeping in mind that none of this is really going to be visible, so it's okay if it's not perfect. But I just want to have it an edge loop going all the way around that's selected. Okay. And let's go to cut this. And let's flatten this one as well. But we do need to put some cuts in the corners here. So I'm just going to hold shift. Well, we'll click away so that our seam is no longer selected over here. Hold shift, double click just so that I have this one edge selected. Same thing over here. Select that one. Hold shift, select that one. Hold shift, select that one. Let's do the same here. But if I hold shift and try to double click it, it's actually going to select the entire edge loop going all the way around, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just hold shift and select one by one instead of double clicking. And let's do it to the opposite side as well. Hold shift and click, click. And let's make this cut, and we're going to see what this looks like. It may not be great, but we'll just do it again. Go to UV shell and let's unfold this one first. And then let's unfold this one next. Let's turn on our checkers and take a look. All right, not bad. Let's rotate them so that they are all straight. Like this. And let's come back in here and take a look. Yeah, this looks really nice. So I'm going to move these ones out. And let's unisolate this. And let's see what we want to work on next. So go to object mode, select everything. We have our two pillars done, our two awnings done, and then the inside done as well. Let's start working on all of our poles and bars and things. And we also have the crank, this guy right here, that we need to work on. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe we should work on this guy first. So we could try to transfer the attributes from this pillar to here because this is a duplicate of this one that we just scaled down. But let's see if that works. I'm going to select the pillar, hold shift, select this one. Let's go to mesh. Let's open that up. Components toggled on, transfer. Okay, so it doesn't look very good because it is smaller. We did scale it down, and so our UVs are being squashed. So let's do this one by itself. I'm going to isolate it, and let's redo it. So let's first turn off our checkers, and let's sew up our seam here. So I'm going to right-click, hold shift and double click. Wherever that cut was made, down here as well, hold shift, double click. So that looks like our entire seam is selected, and let's sew it up. right here. Let's actually move this shell down so that we can see what we're working with here. And let's make some new cuts. Now I'm thinking, let's try doing it this way. Let's select this edge here, 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 and here, and not here. Let's do the same to the top. Here, here, and here. Not here as well. And let's cut it. Cut. I'm going to hit unfold. Turn on my checkers. Let's go to the UV shell here and let's rotate it. Yeah, that looks good to me. Let's scale that down. We could also try to straighten the UVs too. Let's see if that helps. It's this guy right here underneath the unfold option. Nah. Okay, you can see it squashed some of our checkers, so I'm going to undo. And we'll leave this as it is because it is a smaller object. So where you can see that it's angled a bit, that's fine. It's not going to be terribly visible. Object mode. I'm going to move this shell off. I'm going to unisolate this. And let's do this middle pole here. All right, so let's isolate this middle pole and let's think about how we want to do this. So with poles, it's usually helpful to have the end caps here to be their own UV shells and then have the actual middle part be its own UV shell. So basically we'd be cutting this into 3 pieces. So I'm going to go to edge mode and I want to hide my seam as much as possible. So let's do it on the underside. Just going to click here and then let's get this entire edge loop around the end cap on this side. And this side selected. And let's go over and hit cut. And let's go to UV shell. Unfold. Okay, that looks better. So you're going to see that the end caps are not scaled identical to the middle part of the pole, but that's okay. We can change the scaling when we get to the part where we're actually laying out all of our UVs. So for now, I'm just going to move these off screen, rotate them a little bit. Okay, so now object mode, unisolate that. Now we can transfer the attributes from this pole to this little piece, this little piece, this piece, and this piece because they are all just duplicates of the same polygon here. So I'm going to hold shift, select that guy. Go up to mesh, transfer attributes, and it doesn't look great. So let me select this one, isolate it, and see what our problem is here. UV shell. I think it may just be the scaling. Yeah. No, it actually doesn't look that great. Oh, there we go. I just needed to hit unfold again. So let's rotate this. Get everything selected here. Once again, scaling is going to be weird between the 2 UV shells, but we will fix that once we get to actually doing the layout. So I'm going to unisolate this one and let's come over to this one here. I'm going to hold shift. Select that and mesh, transfer attributes. This one as well, mesh, transfer attributes. Now I'm going to select this middle pole right here, hold shift, select this guy right here, mesh, transfer attributes. And now this one is a little different because we added an extra edge loop on either end. And we did the same thing with this middle one here as well. It's in smooth mesh preview right now, so I'm going to hit 1 so it no longer is. And you can see there's that extra edge loop. So we can UV map the middle one and transfer the attributes to this one as well. So I am going to isolate this one, and we're going to do the same thing. Let me turn off checkers. Let's hide the seam on the bottom here. So I'm just going to select this bottom edge, and remember there's more to it. There's these little guys on either end. Select those, and then let's hold shift, select the entire end cap all the way around, and this one as well. Nope, not that guy. Okay, now let's make this cut. Let's select all the UV shells here, and let's hit unfold. Okay, I'm going to turn on checkers. Let's rotate this. Let's not worry about scaling right now. We'll get to that in a bit. Okay, looks good. Let's unisolate this, and let's select this one here. Let's go up to mesh, transfer attributes. Okay. So we have something weird going on here. Object mode. Let me just isolate this one right now. There's some weird stretching going on. Ah, look at that. It made weird cuts all along it. Let me turn off checkers so you can see that. We have a seam on every angle. Now, why did that happen? I may have accidentally selected. Is that what happened over with this one as well? No. This one looks fine. You can see we do just have our seam on the bottom side. Okay. Just an odd glitch that happened. So I'm just going to come over here, isolate this one, and let's redo it. I'm going to come to edge, select that, and sew. This one can be sewn, so okay, that was odd. That's fixed now. Let's go to object mode. Let's turn this on here, and let's do UV shells. Select everything, unfold. Oh, how interesting. Something crazy is going on. I wonder. Oh. There we go. This little edge right here needs to be sewn, so let's make sure that there's no secret edges selected. So this is something that you learn how to do. This one needs to be cut still. Is when your UV maps are looking crazy, chances are you have a edge that has accidentally been selected. So, and has accidentally been cut or not cut. So it's important that if it's not generating a UV shell that looks normal, chances are you just need to go around and you need to look at your entire polygon and see what's going on. Okay, so now when we go to UV shell and select everything here, we should be able just to unfold it. Yes, we can. Okay. Rotate this. Turn on our checkers. All right, much better. Scaling's weird, but that will be fixed later on. Now, let's unisolate this and let's take a look. So we have this end one done. We have the crank done. This bar done. This one done. That one done. That one done. This middle one. And this one. Okay, so everything, at least for the poles, look good. We have the crank done, the two pillars, the awning, the inside of the roof finished. So we still need to do the stones. We still need to do the helix rope. We need to do the shingles. We need to do this top of the roof. And we need to do the ground and the rocks as well. So So let's get to that. All right, let's do this helix next. So it may look like a really intimidating object to try to UV map, but it's actually very simple when you do a certain way. So I'm going to have the helix selected and let's isolate it. And you can see it's pretty okay with that initial camera-based projection that we did initially. But remember, it's going to look okay from where we were looking at it straight on, but the top is going to be really stretched and the bottom is going to be very stretched too. So let's make a new projection for this. Let's go to create and let's do a planar projection. And I don't want to do it from the z-axis. I want to do it from the x-axis. So let's hit project. Okay, this may look a little crazy initially, but we're not quite done yet. Now, let's make some cuts. I'm going to go to object mode just for a minute. And I'm going to turn off checkers for now. And you can see the same thing happened where our material got knocked off. So I'm going to open up Hypershade. With the helix selected, I'm going to put the open PBR material back on there. Okay, so now let's go to edge mode and let's select an edge that is not very obvious. So one that's hidden on the inside. This one works. I'm going to hold shift and double click. And you can see that selects each inner edge on the entire spiral. So that's exactly what I wanted. Now let's go and let's hit cut. And now when we go to UV shell, let's select the entire helix and hit unfold. Okay, so I'm going to turn on checkers. You can see if I rotate this, this is pretty nice UV mapping now. Now the issue is it's miles long. So we don't want that. We want to have it all fit inside of our 1x1 box in the middle. So we need to make some more cuts. I think it'd be a good idea to cut this maybe into 5 or 6 different parts. So let's do that down here where we have some edges that are hidden. So I'm going to go ahead and hold shift, double click, so we can select that first edge loop. And you can see I have it selected here as well. Let's hit cut. Now let's go and let's select this one here, hold shift, oops. Hold shift, double click. You can see that reflected here as well. Let's hit cut and let's keep going down. Let's now do this one, this one, and this one. Okay, so now if you take a look, we have it and we've cut it up into about 3, 4, 5, 6 different parts. So this will just be easier just to do the layout a bit better. So we could just kind of stack them up on top of each other and it won't affect the actual UVs themselves. Now, I do want to make a note of these ends look weird. So why do they look weird? That's because if we come down here, and I go to face mode, we have one face, but multiple edges. And that makes this an n-gon. Now remember, we don't want n-gons, we want quads. So we could come into here and we could make cut some edges in. If we did that, that would make quads. But this is not even going to be visible. If you remember, this part of the rope is actually sitting inside of the well. So I'm not going to worry about doing that. Now, you may be working with a director in the future who wants perfection and says, I'm not okay with this. And so you would have to go in there and change this from an n-gon to quads for both of these end caps here. But for this project, I'm not going to worry too much about it because it's not visible. So take a look. Our entire helix has been UV mapped, and let's move on to the next part. All right, let's do the top of the roof next. I'm going to come here. I'm going to select it. Let's isolate it. And it's pretty similar to the bars that we did. So this should be pretty easy. We're going to do it the same way. let's turn off checkers so that we can see. And let's select this edge down below. I'm going to go to edge, and I just want this edge. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hit cut. Looks like it doesn't want to cut. It's okay. We can come back to it and do it. I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to double click so that I can get the entire edge loop all around this end here. You can see that. Select it all the way around. I'm going to hold shift, do the same here, double click. And now let's hold shift and select this bottom one again, and let's just do cut. So object mode, you can see we made our cut all the way around the end cap. We made our cut down below. We made our cut along this end cap as well. I'm going to turn on checkers, and let's go to UV shell and select everything here, unfold. Okay, and just rotate it. So you can see very similarly to the poles, it unwrapped pretty nicely. And the scaling is a little off, but of course we'll go back and fix that ourselves. But otherwise, this looks pretty good. Let's unisolate that, and let's do the shingles next. All right, let's select one of these shingles, and we're just going to UV map one of them, or UV unwrap one of them, and then just transfer the attributes to every shingle after it because they're all duplicates. So I'm going to isolate this one, and I want to unfold this so it's one UV map. Now, I could try to do maybe a projection. We could try to do a planar projection. I'm thinking maybe from the y-axis. Let's hit project. Okay, there's some stretching going on, so that didn't work. Let's go to object mode, and it looks like our material got knocked off, so I'm going to open up Hypershade. With the shingle selected, I'm going to assign the OpenPBR material to it. Now, let's make some cuts. So I'm going to come here. I want to select this one. And hold shift, this one. Hold shift, this one, and this one. But we don't want to do this one up here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit cut. And now let's hold shift and select this edge. Let's do the same over here. Hold shift and select this one. Now let's do cut. And let's do it up here as well. So I'm going to hold shift, select those, hold shift, and that one as well. And let's do cut. So now let's do the UV shell here, and let's hit unfold. Let's turn on checkers. All right, much better. There's a little bit of deformation going on along the bottom here, but I feel like we can get away with that because it's not terribly visible. So that looks good. Let me rotate this, and unisolate this. Let's actually just scale this down a bit so that we can visualize it a little bit better. Okay, we are going to hold shift, and now this is the fun part where we are just going to transfer attribute again and again and again. Hold shift, and if you see some weird stretching, that's okay. We are going to straighten things out when we're doing the layout part. See, mesh, transfer attributes, mesh, transfer attributes. I'm just holding shift and selecting each one. If I just do G, that will repeat our last step, G. This is just me hitting G again and again on my keyboard. So that's the beauty of duplicating. Make sure that's selected because it makes it so much easier when you are UV mapping to just transfer the attributes to your duplicated objects. Let's do the same on the back side here. G. All right, I'm not going to record this part because it's going to take forever. Okay, so we have all of the shingles UV mapped because we just transferred the attributes to each shingle. So those are done. Now we still need to do the stones, the rocks, and the ground. And I just want to point out that I have been incrementing and saving between each part of the well. I've just not been showing that. So you should be doing that as well. After you finish one portion of the well, increment and save again and again, increment and save, increment and save. It's very, very important. Let's do the stones next. All right, let's UV map the stones. Now remember, this stone is a different object from this one. So we do need to UV map them separately so that we can transfer the attributes of the long stone to all the duplicate long stones, as well as transfer the attributes of the short stone to all of the short stones. So let's start off with one first. I am going to isolate this one. Take a look at it. Funky stretching. I could try to use possibly a projection, but if we think about it, this is pretty cubed shape. So if we follow the general UV mapping of a cube, this would actually be very easy to unwrap. So I'm going to turn off checkers, and I'm going to come to edge mode, and I am going to select this edge. I'm going to select this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one down below. So you can see what edges I've selected. I've selected this one that goes all the way around the bottom and the front, this one on the side, up and around like that. Not this one, this one, this one. Okay, so you kind of have a general idea of what edges I've selected. And it should unfold very similarly to a basic cube. So if we come here, let's hit cut. Let's select this entire UV shell and let's hit unfold. Okay, so that looks pretty cubish to me. So I'm going to turn this. Let's check with the checkers. All right, very nice. You can see that unwrapped very, very nicely. So I'm just going to unisolate this, and now comes the part where we transfer the attributes to each of the long stones. So I'm going to hold shift, select, mesh, transfer attributes. I'm going to select the next one. I'm going to hit G to repeat. Next one, G to repeat. Next one, G to repeat all the way down every single one of the long stones. But I'll do that off screen, and then we'll come back and we'll do the short cubes as well. All right, you can see that I transferred the attributes of the initial long stone to all of the other ones around it. So now let's UV map the smaller stone. So I'm going to go to object mode. Let's select this guy and isolate him, and let's do it the same way that we did the long one because this looks like a cube to me. So I'm going to turn off the checkers, and I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to select this edge right here, this edge right here, this back one, this back one. Maybe it'd be better to see if I wasn't in rotate. Let's come up here, this one, and then this front one. So now you can see where all of our edges are selected. Okay, looks good. So now we can go over and cut. And if we go to UV shell, we should be able to just unfold it. Okay, let's rotate this one. And let's turn on checkers so we can take a look at that. Okay, looks good. Let's unisolate this one. And same thing, let's hold shift, mesh, transfer the attributes, and then let's go all around the well and hit G and repeat that process with each one of the short stones. All right, so all of the short stones have been UV mapped and the attributes transferred to each one. Now, if we select our entire well here, you can see our well is completely UV mapped. So our helix, our stones, our shingles, our pillars, everything looks good. Now that's all that, now that what's left is the ground and our little stones. So let's do the stones first. I am going to select this stone, and if you look at it, it's extremely similar to our rivets that we did with the UV mapping a stool project. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look at it straight on. Let me just get it more centered. There we go. And I'm going to go up to Planner, open up the options box, and let's do it from the camera. So project, and let's turn on our checkers. And that looks really nice. Okay, so you can tell, once again, our shader got knocked off, so I'm gonna go to object mode. With that selected, I am going to assign the material to selection. It's not necessary for me to do that because we are going to be texturing it, creating the textures ourselves in Substance Painter, but it's just nice to be a little more uniform and do it like that. So now I can go ahead and transfer the attributes to the other stones as well. So mesh, transfer attributes. Let's see. Let's try that again. Mesh, transfer attributes. There we go. G to repeat. And then I'm just going to go around and do each of the rocks. All right, now the ground. Let's look at it for a second. So first thing you're going to notice, this is made of triangles. We don't want triangles. So what we need to do is turn this into quads. So I'm going to come here and I am just going to select every other edge. And I am going to come to the other side and I'm going to do the same. Every other edge. And I'm just going to hit delete. And so now you can see our faces here has 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so these are quads. All right, let's go back to object mode. Let's delete the history, freeze transformation, and now let's UV map this. So I think we could just probably do a planner projection looking at it straight on. Let's go to planner, still in camera, project. Yep, looks good. Okay, so we have, well, let's see, our shader was knocked off. So select that. Open PBR, assign material to selection. We have everything UV mapped. Now comes the part where we need a layout. We need to do the layout of all of these objects or UV maps inside of this 1x1 box. So let's do that next. All right, so now last of all, we need all of these UVs to be inside of our 1x1 box here. So we could try to scale each one by hand and try to lay them out, just like we did with the stool, but there's so many parts. There's a lot of UVs here that I don't want to do that by hand. So I have this handy little tool that we can use that will do automatically for us. It won't be perfect. We will have to go in and change it around a bit, but let me show you. Now, first things first, I don't care to take the ground into Substance Painter. Um, it'd be easier just to put a shader on it here in Maya. So I am not going to, it's UV mapped, but I'm not going to have it be part of the UV map set that we take to Substance. So I'm going to turn the divisibility off. And now let's select our entire well and our little rocks here. And we need to delete the history and freeze the transformation because we made a lot of changes while doing the UV mapping. So free transformation, delete by type history. All right, let's select all the UV shells so that we can do a layout for them. I'm going to select all of these. And to do an auto layout, let's go up to Modify, Layout. Let's open up the options box. Let's go to Edit, Reset Settings just to make sure that we're in the default settings. You want to make sure that Unfold 3D, that method is turned on. For the shell pre-rotation, it's turned off at the moment, but it would be nice to have all of our shells automatically rotated with each other. So we could either do horizontal or vertical. These ones are a little useless. So I think in this case, I'm going to probably do vertical. And I think that works. Let's hit apply. All right, so you can see that Maya squeezed all of our UV shells, I'm going to close this, into this one by one place here. And it's exactly what we wanted. Now, it's not perfect. You can see there's a little bit of overhang on some of these shells. And I'm going to turn off the checkers. It's not very well organized. So we have shingles up here, we have shingles down here, and we want everything to be in general in the same places. So let's come in here and let's start moving things around a bit. All right, let's zoom in here and start organizing a bit. So all of these pieces are the rope pieces. And you can see they're all kind of spread out. So I'm just going to select them and just gather them together for now. This looks like that's the middle pole. Okay. This is rope. This is rope. And this is rope. Select all of these. Let's bring them over here. Okay, so first things first, I think we should organize the shingles. So I want, take a look at this. I want all these shingles to be in one spot over here for the most part. So I'm just going to start grabbing them and moving them around as close to the edge as I can get. And I think I'm going to try to get them into 3 columns all down this one side. All right, you can see that I couldn't get them all into 3 columns, so I had to do 4 columns. And you may be noticing that I'm not stacking them. Well, I'm not stacking them because we are going to take them to Substance Painter. And in Substance Painter, it's a better idea to have all of your UV shells not stacked because it's procedural texturing. It's PBR textures, meaning they're smart materials. And whereas we stacked them all for the stool UV mapping when we were stacking the identical parts, like the rivets were all stacked. We don't want that for in this case because we do want to be able to texture them all separately from each other in Substance. So all of the shingles are here. I did have to move some to some of these other shells to make room. Now let's do a little more organization. Here are my stones. I think I'm going to try to fit all of my stones coming up here, coming down, all the way down in rows. So one of the things I do want to try is I want to try, let me turn on my checkers again. Let's see if I can find one like this one. I want to try straightening the UVs. I want to see what happens. So if I have this one selected, I'm going to try straighten UVs. Oops, straighten shell. Let's try this one here. Where is that? Right here. happens when we do straighten UVs? Oh, look at that. I'm going to turn off the checkers for a second here. So that looks really nice. Now, this is nice and straight, and you can see I straightened it as well. So this will work for the stones. I don't think it's going to work so much for the shingles. We could try. I'm going to select a single shingle, and I'm going to come here and try straighten UVs. It worked a bit, but I don't know if it worked enough to really justify trying to straighten every shingle. Let's see. Let's try this one. Where is that one? Down here. Let's do straighten UV. I mean, it's not making much of a difference. Straighten UV. What did that look like before? But we can. Let's straighten all of these UVs. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to straighten all of the UVs on here. So I'm going to select multiple, and I'm going to do straighten UVs. And now we're not going to be able to do this with every shell. But for the most part, we can get away with this. When it comes to the shingles, straighten UVs. And remember, you should be incrementing and saving as we're doing this part too, simply because Maya could crash while doing this part. So we want to save our progress by incrementing and saving straighten UVs. Okay, so now let's do these stones again. These guys should straighten pretty easily. It's these guys that are not going to straighten as easily, the longer stones, because they're all rotated a bit. So if I try to do straighten UVs, you can see it gets wonky. But if I rotate this and then try straighten UVs, it's a little more uniform. And you can see those UVs look great. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to straighten all the UVs of the smaller stones. I'm going to rotate these larger stones and then straighten the UVs of the larger ones as well. So this is going to be a little tedious of rotating each one of these, but I will do the off screen where I will rotate each one and straighten all of them, and then I'll come back and we'll start putting them in place. All right, so you can see I straightened the UVs of all of the stones. If I turn on the checkers, you can see they look good. Okay, so now let's start laying these out. Now I'm thinking I'm going to take these larger ones and I'm going to make a row of them up top. Now remember, we're trying to utilize as much space as possible. So we need to be a bit strategic with how we're going to do this. So I'm just going to select all the larger stones, which are going to be these thicker ones. And I'm going to try to get them as close together and in a row as possible. Okay. Get some of these smaller ones out of the way. Just going to put them off screen right there. So here's some larger ones. I'm just going to select them and pull them up so that I can work with them up here. Looks like I can fit one more right here. Okay, so now we have our first top row up there. Now these guys, I think it would be a good idea to rotate them. Yeah, because now if they're rotated, let me turn the checker back off. we could actually slide them in right here. And we could start a second row of these stones. Let me rotate this one as well. Wedge it in right here. So hopefully you're seeing what I'm thinking here, which we can then take the longer stones and start making a new row down below. So this is just optimizing the amount of space that we're taking up and helping us to not overlap any of these UVs. So I'm going to do that off screen, and then we're going to come back and take a look at it. All right, so you can see that I put all the different stones, UVs in their place in nice uniform rows, trying to get them as close to each other as possible without them overlapping. And so they look good. Now let's get everything fit in here as well. So I'm just going to slide this roof over to the edge, lift it up. So these are the parts of the inner roof. So we'll keep those together. Now here's the rope. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to bring this down. We'll find a spot for it in a moment. Now these are all parts of the awning. So let's get these in here. Trying to get everything as close together as possible and utilize as much space as possible. And I'm going to rotate this so it's straighter. And let's slide that in. So the point is to get everything that belongs with each other in a nice space together. I'm going to rotate this one as well. I'm going to slide this in like so. And there should be a fourth piece. There we go. And this as well. So I won't film this entire process simply because this is more for you to do. I will do this off screen. So now let's try to get things together, things that belong together. So this is this ridge right here on the roof. So I'm going to bring it over here. Let's see if we can find the little end pieces to it. So I believe this is one. Yes, it is. You can see it selected there. And this is the other right here. So let's select them one by one and let's move them just so that they're closer to this one right here. All right, I am going to just scale this up so it fits a little bit better. You guys remember we want some uniform scaling. Let me grab this other one. And you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm collecting all the pieces that go together, and I'm trying to keep them together. Let's rotate this one and scale this one up as well. Right about there. So this is the crank here. So I am gonna turn this one. And let's move it over here. Now, these are the pillars. They're fine right here. They're not terribly in the way. So I'm going to leave them there. They are kind of overlapping a bit, though. So I am going to slide it over just a bit. This looks like this is a stone. Yes, this is a stone. So I'm going to collect all of the stones and try to keep them together. These are all stones. Looks like maybe this is a little stone. No. Let's see. This is a stone. This is a stone. Let's keep these together. There should be one last stone. I think it's this. No, that was the one I just clicked. Okay, let's see here. No. Here we go. Here's the last stone. Okay, so we'll keep these stones together. Let's find a place for them. They'll fit nicely right here. Okay. Now, the end caps and the bars are going to be a little tricky. So this is the center bar. I'm going to bring that over here. Now I need to find the end caps for this center bar. So let me see if I can zoom in so that I can see when it's selected. So is this one of the end caps? Yes, this is. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to keep it over here. And I am going to scale this up so it's roughly the same width. And then I'm going to nudge that a bit. Oh, that was too much. There we go. See if we can find the other one. Is this it? This is. Okay, so you get the general idea of what I'm doing. I'm collecting all the bars and their end caps, keeping them together, keeping them kind of scaled with each other. So here's the rope. We can just select them and squeeze them in somewhere. Maybe we could rearrange just a little bit to get as much space utilized. And then everything else I will do off screen and I'll show you my final result. All right, so this is my final result. Let me turn off my checker so you can see better. You could see that I utilize space really well. I do have a lot of leftover space that if I wanted to, I could scale everything just a little bit more and get everything to fit. But I'm okay with it like this, and I'm okay with you having it like this too, where there's some gaps, just as long as nothing's overlapping. That's what's important. Gaps are fine. All right, so our well is UV mapped. The hardest part is over. So now we are going to save a snapshot of our UV map here. Let's do UV snapshot. Let's make a new one. Let's call this well. Oops. UV out. Close that. Now we're done with the UV mapping, so I'm going to go to General, and let's export this model so that we can take this to Substance Painter. So I'm going to go Object Mode. First things first, I am going to freeze transformation and delete the history. And now up in File, I'm going to go down to Export Selection. Let's open up the options box. Now, yours is probably going to start out Maya binary for the file type. Let me actually reset the settings so we can see. Okay, and we want to change it down to, see if I can find it, OBJ export. OBJ is the default file export for 3D models. OBJ just stands for object, so you know that it is an object. We can toggle off the history. All right, let's export the selection. Now, we do want to do this in the assets file, just because it's a little more organized. So I'm going to name this well. And now this well has been exported, and we can take that export OBJ over to Substance Painter to texture it there.